say that I think one of the things that many of you know and many of you are learning is that where this kind of coordination position sits, or where the people who are interested in food sit, varies from municipality to municipality, and we saw that just in a little moment here today, where we have people who are working on environmental work and coming at some of these issues that way, and certainly from the public health perspective. I think one of the things I want to say about this is that the politics, I didn't even see what that said. 5. Oh, I don't even have that much to say about this. It's just that we've been through enough years of doing some kind of version of centralized food policy and strategy in New York now. And enough years means like more than 10, but less than 20. And it really matters who your mayor is. I mean, it seems very simple, but it really matters who your mayor is. Or it really matters, I also appreciated some things that were said earlier about just, finding the group of people who's going to be committed to working on this. And we very much, in this particular administration, are working to be internal advocates across, this group of people across agencies are working to be advocates to make sure that food is never the number one thing that a mayor is dealing with. I don't know of a mayor who could say that. And then working in a mayor's office is very much about immediate issues and very press-driven. I would be interested in hearing how people are using media to bring more attention to some of these issues. But I would say that, it is all about aligning, in my experience, all of your external and internal players. And I'm all the time sort of looking at the game board and saying, well, this person's left, but look, we now have somebody who's really receptive at, in the school authority, for example. So it changes, and your job is to find those people.
Yeah. Can I add just one thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I very much agree also from what we see in the Nordic countries that you need some kind of strong leadership on this. But then on the other hand, what we've seen also is that if there has been one mayor starting the strong leadership, putting forth the vision, as you are telling us about, there is a vision for this city, then more and more people get involved in that vision, and then you have some alliances that you can build on when the mayor is gone. So for instance, in Copenhagen, I'll talk more about this tomorrow, but in Copenhagen, there was this mayor who just wanted organic food, and that was the most important thing for the whole of the Copenhagen city. But then came other mayors who had never worked with food policy, but they just saw that there was this momentum about the organic food, that it linked very well with what the citizens were demanding from their political leadership. And then a lot of momentum kept going, even though the organic mayor left. So as somebody working within the city to work with these kind of things, I'm sure that a great mayor is, of course, what you really, really want. But if that mayor leaves, there are definitely traces that you can work in afterwards.
Yeah, no question.
Yes.
Any other questions? Picking up tomorrow's talks, I think, and also picking up on the media issue, unless I'm doing any catastrophic mistake, because it's all booked out, but tomorrow's morning talk at 11:30 will be Alpha Sinon from Trinidad, who will talk about his experiences of bringing media to kids regarding social change in agriculture. So it's very much a challenge, I think, definitely for us and for others on how to introduce this change.
Gimmicks and connections.
Hmm?
Gimmicks and connections.
Yeah. Okay, so we're moving on with the agenda with Shira from Tel Aviv University, who will share some of her ideas. Thanks.
Hi everyone. Do we talk to the microphone?
Yeah.
Hi. I want to say good morning, but I think it's past lunch, so hi everyone. We're going to talk about something a bit different. I know that you all are focused on cities, but I study rural areas, and I want to talk to you all about... I want to talk to you all about something a bit different, the role of hope in farmers' adoption of sustainable technology. So when it comes to food, it only makes sense that you also have to understand where that food comes from. And I work here, I'm a PhD candidate here upstairs in the public policy department. And in our lab, what we do is we study the connections between positive psychology, environmental behavior, and environmental policy. We try to make use of different concepts from the different disciplines and connect them to come up with different theories and check them in the field. So I focus my study on smallholders, and though they're not found in cities mostly, they're found in rural areas, they're a very important part of the cycle of food security in the world. So that means they ultimately affect the food that we eat in the cities where we live. So who are these small farmers? They are rural producers, they live mainly in developing countries. It's not very likely to find small farmers here in Israel, for example, or in the US. They usually produce very simple food. Usually they eat their own production, so they don't even sell the food that they produce. They use family labor. And I think that the biggest problem of this population is that they have very low returns, so it's very difficult for them to make investments and try to get their agriculture better. And why are they so important? Because, well, they're in charge of a lot of food. So 80% of the food that's consumed in Asia and Africa is produced by small farmers. There are 570 million small farms in the world. And most of these small farmers are poor. And most of the poor people in the world are small farmers. So this means that this population is very crucial for making a sustainable future, a global sustainable future. And the question that many researchers ask is, why do these farmers not use modern inputs? Why do they not adopt modern technologies? And the thing is that you can look downstairs, pictures from Senegal and pictures from Ethiopia. These farmers grow food in a way that's not very, it's not a very good way. It's not effective. And no one really understands, there's no right or wrong answer thus far as for why they don't adopt these technologies. And the thing is that the majority of studies that study this kind of question, that try to understand why these farmers stay in these cultural kind of growing cultivation, they focus on, they come from an economic perspective. So they're not psychologists. They assume that there's some kind of rational thinking, that the farmer sits at home and makes these decisions based on rationality and economic assumptions. And also they talk a lot about social and geographic barriers. One of them, for example, would be how far is the farmer away from the city, assuming that the farther away the farmer is, the more difficult it is for the farmer to grow better and to use more technologies. The thing is about these barriers, the social, geographic, and even economic barriers, is that they fail to provide a comprehensive explanation for the low adoption rates of technology. I was in Nepal in 2017, and I saw something really interesting. I saw that there are two neighbors, farmers. They have both been to Israel, so they came back with a lot of money. And one of them was really good and adopted a lot of technologies. And then the other one was, how you say, meh. But they have the same amount of money, and they're located in the same area. So why are they not at the same level of farming? And you can see the same thing from Senegal. Two neighbors, very different cultivation techniques. So we focus on the adopter, and we have this new idea that instead of just focusing on the money, we should also focus on hope and strengths that the farmer has, and try to make use of these personality, what we call personal resources in the psychology disciplinary, and make use of these things to understand what leads the farmer to adopt or not adopt technology. And the thing about hope and character strengths is that they could be adopted and influenced through policy. So it's very easy to approach farmer in a different way that would be promoting his hope. So when I say hope, I assume most of you are thinking about unicorns and sparkly things in the air and pink, but this is not the kind of hope I'm talking about. I am talking about cognitive hope. And that kind of hope means that you have goals and that you have pathways, you understand the ways to reach your goals, and that you have the agency to follow the different paths to reach your goals. And this is something that is pretty easy to measure. So there are many reasons which I won't go over for why hope should be connected to adoption of technology. I'm assuming you all can understand. We ran a field study in Senegal. We visited 350 plots. You can see them here. We ran face-to-face interviews in French and Wolof, the local language. And I will quickly share with you the results. But before, I just want to say one more thing. We focused on drip irrigation.